Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 307, technically. Fast 10 6th gear. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode's brought to you by the Silicon Valley Bike Exchange, bikex.org. The Silicon Valley Bike Exchange began in 1993 repairing bicycles for clients of the Mountain View Community Services Agency. Shout out to BikeX.
Well, shout out to BikeX and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever, Joe. This is the final time for at least a few months that we'll be talking about Fast 10 exclusively. I mean, we'll probably be talking about it in every mailbag and
pretty much, yeah,
many of the main core installment episodes. But with us today, the reason we are here, now available on VOD, you can watch us from your home where she did. We have with us, returning from the... Was it the Walk Down Memory Chain Lap? Was it the Letty Lap? I think it was, right? Or was it Brian?
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Depths of Hell, but yeah.
No, never.
What lap were you on? With us is Cara Gael O'Regan. Hello, Cara.
Hi. I was on the lap where we watched things in chronological order for the first time.
Okay.
Which we've adapted and do that all the time now.
Mm.
You were on the That's So Brian lap.
Oh, that is so Brian.
Was it just Brian movies? It was just Brian movies. We only did like 4 Paul Walker movies. So we did like Brick Mansions,
I remember.
Into the Blue.
But you didn't do Noel that time.
We did Noel later.
The Christmas special, yeah.
We've done Noel later.
I refused to join.
The Christmas movies are a time-honored tradition on here because Joe loves Christmas movies the way that everybody loves Christmas movies.
Exactly, yeah.
But Cara, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us once again to watch Fast 10. Initial thoughts, what did you think?
Oh, I hope they get all their little Bitcoins or Ethereum or whatever it was that got stolen back so that they can get little Brian so much therapy, because this child needs so much therapy. Unless, is it possible that the Toretto automancer gene somehow insulates you and protects you from developing complex PTSD?
Well, I think everybody in this franchise could use a little bit of therapy. I do think that John Cena, from last movie to this movie, underwent some therapy probably and feels like a whole new man. Yeah, seems like it.
Seems like he's been working on himself.
But everyone's harboring some kind of something or other.
I think your PTSD is like part of your superpower in the Fastiverse.
That's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, because it's like Dom is only so good because
he's hypervigilant all the time.
Yes, exactly.
I'm laughing about it because I also have PTSD. So I'm not just making fun of it. From the standpoint of somebody who is traumatized, that kid needs some therapy. They all do.
Speaking of automancers and leveling up, there is the scene in this movie where Jacob sacrifices himself to save Dom and Little B. And there is a theory that we have developed, Cara, so far on the show, based on our thoughts and listener thoughts, that he isn't actually dead, that he death-proofed his car, that he's still going to survive.
Yeah,
but what I noticed this time around, he grabs the necklace. And so maybe the necklace is a teleporter or a time machine
or a shield.
Or like a bubble shield.
Yeah, some sort of talisman that protects you. Yeah. Yep, that's possible.
But also on the death-proofing thing, this time around I noticed that his windows are down. So the fire comes in through the windows.
And also his sunroof is down too.
Yeah. So the whole fireproofing the inside of the car thing doesn't really work if all the windows are down. So yeah. Maybe I like bubble shield better. Let's go with bubble shield for now.
Because he's definitely not dead, obviously. Not unless we see the body. As I've said before, and was right again.
So did you know, had you had it spoiled for you, or did you know, or were you surprised by both the return of Gal Gadot in her submarine and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Hobbs?
I think I, through general cultural osmosis, had learned that information, but had passed through my brain without spending much time inside of it. So I was still surprised when it happened. And then I was like, wait, I think I did know that was going to happen. But it still surprised me. And I was like, there she is. We didn't see the body and she's back.
I don't know why. I was more excited this time around and I knew they were coming. I got more chills this time than I did the first time. And I'm like, this is so exciting. I think because we've talked about this movie 8 or 9 times in the last month. But I am so ready for these two to be back in every way. Can't wait.
I also noticed this time, I'm glad you brought up, we're jumping right into fucking Gal coming back.
Mhm.
But we were like talking about this and like dancing around it, like who did it, whatever. Cypher takes like full credit for bringing
Yeah,
Gal
still
back.
think my plan sucks. Like my plan.
Yes, so
Yeah.
like Cypher was involved in bringing Gal back.
Well, so there's a couple. So this is the first time Joe and I have rewatched the movie since we saw it in theaters. But there's a couple lines in here that, like, when Tess goes to that bar and she meets Dom, and she goes talking about Mr. Nobody. Now that he's gone missing, in like a really weird affectation, she's like,
"Oh, I didn't catch that one."
Missing. Like, there's things like that where just like, what do you know that we don't know?
Well, presumably a lot.
Probably.
She is the nepo baby of all nepo babies, so
she
got all
is.
sorts of interesting info in that little brain of hers.
I do like that moment where she shot through the shoulder and Dom's like looking over. He's like, "You're gonna be okay. It was a clean through. Your dad would be so proud." It's like, of what? Like being shot in the shoulder while on a mission? Like, your dad would be so proud of you for taking a bullet.
Was that the same shoulder that she stabs Letty in? A lot of shoulder work in this movie.
No, different shoulder. I think Letty's the left shoulder. Hers is the right shoulder, I think. But yeah, a lot of shoulder work.
A lot of shoulder work. Yeah, I was really surprised this time around that Bree didn't have a vest on. That would have been very Mr. Nobody family to be wearing a vest.
She's wearing what looks like a corsage. Like she's wearing like a very corset. Yes, not corsage, no flowers. But she's wearing like a kind of a sexy kind of underwear looking thing that like doesn't even cover her full stomach. It's kind of like a push-up bra effect. Like she looks great, but it's also like that's not exactly like bulletproof material.
That's what I was thinking too.
Uncovered bridge.
Yeah.
Cara, did you have a favorite new character or a favorite moment or favorite part of this movie?
I don't know. I was confused for a lot of it.
Have you seen any of these movies since we talked about them?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And it started and I was like, I have no idea what happened in the last movie. I have no idea what this movie is.
Did you appreciate the recap that Big Jack Reacher does in the middle?
Is that who that is? I was wondering who the new cop guy is.
Yeah. He plays Jack Reacher in the Amazon Prime series.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know I did get really excited about Rita Moreno, another person that I knew was going to be in this movie, and then got really excited to see.
She also, I noticed this time around, has a little cross necklace, but hers is gold and not silver. She's got a little
Ooh, I like it.
What did you think of Isabel, the sister of Elena, Dom's baby mama who was shot and killed on the plane? We find out that Isabel is the sister down in Brazil. What did you think of her as a new character?
She was fine. She was definitely Elena's sister. As far as like interest and seeming relevance and importance goes.
Because I think she's got big Suki energy. Kind of like tough, kind of racer, kind of like, you know, the guys hit on her, but she ignores them, blows them off, independent woman.
Is she like Suki, or is she just like another woman in these movies who's driving a car?
Both of them. But I feel like there's a couple different shades of gray for the women here. It's like feisty or like kind of demure or absent. Like I was bummed that Mia, I didn't realize it was 50 minutes. At the 50-minute mark, she checks out and she's not back. Like I knew there's not very much Mia, but like less than an hour of Mia in this movie.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just forgot Mia was in it.
I did too. Yeah.
Until you just said it again, Joey, and I was like, oh yeah, that is right. She is there for a little bit.
Right, just to babysit the kid and make me wonder, where are her kids? And then remember, like, oh, right, quote unquote, Brian is taking care of them. Like, it just, still, I cannot get over the fact that he's not dead in this universe. It's the cognitive dissonance of him. Like, you know, we see everyone else, like, doing their thing, and we're not going to, like, also see him being a stay-at-home dad. Like, what? I think that would be great. Obviously, we can't do that because he's actually dead in real life, but...
It is funny that, like, no characters in this franchise really die, and even if you die in real life, you don't die in these movies, right? Like, you're still around no matter what. Family is family forever.
Yeah, except for all of those innocent civilians that get killed in the process of you carrying out various criminal activities.
Well, I do think that is the one where they have the news report from Italy. They're like, no civilian casualties somehow.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, they did.
They're like very clear. They're like, somehow no one died.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. I thought I misheard it and was like, obviously civilian casualties.
No.
Nope, they saved
No
everyone,
civilian
Cara.
casualties. Although
Wow.
I put this on our Twitter, there's that wall that the bomb rolls to and then sort of hovers at and then falls and just keeps going. But
Mhm.
on that wall, there's like this old-timey inscription. At the top of the inscription says Dom. And I don't know if they digitally altered that. I don't know if they found a wall somewhere in Rome or wherever they
No,
actually
like
shot this that
Domini.
says Dom.
Like
Mhm.
year.
Yeah, that's Latin.
I know, but still, like, how many things are going to have, like, in big, bold letters, just say Dom at the top?
Everything.
In
You think
Rome, a lot of things.
Everything.
Oh,
like
yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Man. Well, I still think it's cool.
It's cool. I'm just saying it's not like rare. It's fucking everywhere.
Because this was the first time that we had pausing and screenshot technology, and
Mm-mm.
there was a thing like Louis Leterrier was like, there's so many Easter eggs strewn throughout this movie. People are going to love to rewatch it. And I watched it with a close eye. I'm just like, I don't think so. Like, I liked rewatching it, but like, I don't think there's a lot of Easter eggs in here.
Okay, but
Mhm.
they are like, I mean, we've already said it and we found some of them, but they are talking a lot about time, the present,
For
things
sure.
like that. So maybe those are the Easter eggs.
So, Carrie, if you'll remember in 9, Roman and Tej go to outer space in that Fiero.
I sure do. That's one of the few things I remember from this franchise.
Yep.
And everyone was like, how do you one-up that? Where do you go from here? We're like, time travel.
Oh,
so
right. Okay.
Cypher literally rolls up in a DeLorean, and the door in the DeLorean remains open overnight, which I realized. Like, she leaves it open when she walks in, then the next morning when all the
The
cops
batteries
are there,
are going to be dead. It's the light's going to...
she doesn't care.
Your door light's going to be on.
They talk about time travel, and they walk into the Pete Davidson building. They're like, do we just time travel? Like, there's all these different time travel... Oh, okay, go ahead, Cara. Pete Davidson thoughts?
2 things. No, not
Please.
about Pete Davidson.
Oh, okay.
One, I always wish that edibles worked as fast as they do in movies. And 2, why didn't that pay off? Like, at all. Han starts hallucinating, and that's just like it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had the same
everything,
questions.
unless everything that happens from that point forward is just a Han
fever dream?
sequence. Yeah.
Oh.
Which, I love dream sequences, so that would be very exciting.
What do you think Roman throws at the ceiling in that scene? He throws like a baby powder or something? Because like I was like, oh, it's a baby powder, but like baby powder's not a thing. Like they joke about baby oil in 6, but baby powder is not a thing. Like he throws a thing twice at like he's just like, ha, and Pete Davidson's like ghetto magician. But like, what is that, and why does he do it twice? Because we don't have answers.
It should be cocaine, right? Like that's like what it should be.
Why should it be that?
Because Pete Davidson has all kinds of drugs around because he's a drug guy. That was was what I always assumed.
Okay. That whole scene was, why did it exist at all other than to shoehorn Pete Davidson into the franchise and or set up Han's dream sequence?
We don't know. There's
None
no
of it
reason
makes
for
sense.
it. We could cut that out entirely because, like, they could just go, "Hey, I know a place," and they go to Statham. Like, they just get to where
Right.
they're going.
But they have to have a weird drug scene and Pete
I know.
Davidson at an internet
Yeah.
cafe.
I do love an internet cafe. I mean, not to like use it. I just like
The concept of
enjoy
it.
the concept of it and like feel very nostalgic for it, even though they don't really exist anymore. Although there was one in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey for a far longer time than I would have expected.
That was a front. He was selling fun
Right.
cupcakes.
Muffins.
Fun
Yeah.
muffins. Like
Mhm.
no internet cafe should exist
That actually makes
anymore.
like a lot more sense. Yeah.
There was a sign on the outside of that building, like the internet cafe, that says £1 per minute. Can you imagine? Like, there's like a dude like playing like an MMO, like when you first walk in. Like, can you imagine being there for like an hour to play some kind of video game and like paying £60 for the privilege? Who's doing that?
This was a concept we had in Pittsburgh at one point that they would like it never made any sense and died pretty much immediately, but there was like a quasi internet cafe, but they would have like gaming computers so you could come and use their gaming computers and rent them, and it wasn't like $1 a minute, but even still it was kind of outrageous. And like I was like, oh, this is cool because like, it'd be like, oh, if you can't afford to like build your own computer because they can be expensive, you could come play computer games here. But then it
Mhm.
just becomes like the cost of building your own computer in like 2 weeks.
But like, Pete Davidson's even upfront about like, how much it all sucks. He's like, they're doing, like, there's a couple of good jokes. Like, they're doing dozens of dollars worth of damage. Like, he's just like, this is all like, this is from the 90s.
Yes.
Like, it's expensive and shitty. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. That whole scene can be cut though, Cara. You're not wrong.
I wish they had done more with Hans. But who knows? Maybe in the next one they will. We'll find out.
Hans drugs scene? You wanted more of that?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Come on. I mean, how long from the time that scene transpires to the end of the movie? Like, what's the timeline? How long does that take? Maybe it didn't kick in as fast as I thought it did, and like by the end of the movie, it's been 3 hours, and Han is like tripping balls, and then like
we
in the
see him
next
look
one,
down, and it's already hit. You know what I mean? Like he's looking at the muffin, and it's already like. And then I think it seems like he in the next scene, he's kicking dudes' asses, right? Like,
oh yeah.
And I had another thought.
Whatever that was.
That I don't think that it was actually just edibles, and I was thinking this had to be some of the recreational compounds.
Oh, like mushrooms, yeah.
No, not mushrooms, but like
No.
like the 2C class of drugs.
Oh,
Like-
yeah, I haven't heard of those since college.
Yes, like those, like plant foods. A
Right.
lot of plant foods. That's what it felt like to me, because it was like the muffin kind of like did a little twisty guy, and I was like, oh, okay. And it hit really quick, not like mushrooms. I was like, that makes a little bit more sense. I think
It does. And then you wouldn't be that stoned for very long.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, that's boring.
It's not as fun. I agree, but
Yeah.
all roads lead home. So
So another thing that I used pause technology to take a closer look at was Han's dating profile.
oh, nice.
So it's been pointed out that Han on his dating app, which, you know, people lie on, he's listed as 39. Sun Kang in real life is 52, Cara, so not even in the ballpark of close.
That's fine.
The app says 6 feet tall. I like cars and motorsports, which, yes, that's accurate. I Googled how tall is Sun Kang. 6 feet, so there we go. There's a line that ends in OKER, so maybe poker, because we see him playing some poker, some cards and stuff in Tokyo Drift. Maybe something about Joker, like Roman, who knows? And then there's also another line that says, in the US and Japan. So, like, you know, I've lived in the US and Japan, maybe. But the most important thing, the most telling thing, I think, is that when they hand him the phone, they're like, look what we did for you. He says, I told you guys, I don't need that. Because he knows Giselle, is still alive.
Well, and also, I mean,
He doesn't need. He
I know,
doesn't.
I know,
He's big dicking too.
But
a
no,
little
but that's
bit
the
there.
thing. Like, he's saying, like, we think in the first time he's saying it, like, I don't need that. Look at me. Look at my cheekbones. But we know now he doesn't need that because the love of his life on a submarine somewhere.
but
Yeah,
does
little
he know that?
foreshadowing. Easter eggs. It's one of these Easter eggs, Joey.
Kara, we don't know who knows what. We assume that everyone knows everything and nothing.
That's fair. Schrodinger's
Car.
No, Schrodinger's car. There you go.
There is a Vin Diesel movie that... Oh, no, not a Vin Diesel movie.
Oh my god. Yeah, it was. It was.
Was it Vin? Was it a Vin movie or was it... It wasn't Equilibrium, right? It was...
Oh, maybe it. Fuck. No.
Babylon AD? Hold on.
No, it was. Oh god, which one was it? Actually, you're right. Vin. Vin was
It was
in
Repo Men. It was Repo Men that opens with... Jude
Yeah.
Law opens with, like, explaining Schrodinger's cat. And it's like, in a way that just, like... A couple of college bros getting stoned to go into the movies and be like, bro, did you hear what they talked about? Like, the cat is alive and dead? Whoa, bro. But we did it like 2 months ago, so like it's sort of fresh in our brains. Even though we could not tell you what movie it was from until I looked it up.
I did remember that part of that movie though. He's like Schrodinger's cat,
He's even
and
doing a
like
good job
then
explaining it.
explains it. Yeah.
There is also the Cypher Letty fight scene that people are like, how long is 4 minutes? But we only see them fighting for 90 seconds. And then she climbs up for 35 seconds and then drops down. So, like, there's a chance that when, like, she's like, we have 4 minutes, like, that's all fine. But what did you think, Cara, after 2 movies behind the computer, they were like, oh, right, we have Charlize Theron who can fight and kick ass. Let's give her 2 big fight scenes. Did you like those scenes?
I would have, except that they were in a room with like a flashing
Yeah.
alert light the
I'm
whole
so
time.
sorry, lady.
So I had to kind of like hold my phone up in front of the screen and look at something else for a while. So PSA/begging all, I don't know who's responsible for this, directors, lighting designers, gaffers,
Former ravers.
grips, former ravers, whomever might be working on movies and action movies, and you think it's going to look like so cool if they have some sort of flashing light in the scene while people are moving around real fast, and you're cutting things real fast and whatever. Some of us have very delicate brains, and flashing lights, they're no good. So stop doing that, please.
The upside is that you were able to watch it at home and you didn't have to you weren't subjected to an entire wall-sized movie screen.
Yeah.
So at least you're able to sort of,
Yeah, well, that was why I didn't go to the movies to see it with you guys, because I've had to walk out of action movies before, because it's not just the flashing lights, it's just the way that they're cut and shot.
Yeah, they're fast.
Things are moving so fast.
Yep.
So, and even when I go see normal movies, the last movie I saw in the theater was Little Women. First movie I'll see in the theater again, definitely Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I have to sit all the way at the back, right next to the door, so there's some natural light still in my periphery, quote unquote natural. It's such a overwhelming sensory experience that I've now learned that I cannot even go see modern action movies in the theater, which sucks. I have a hard enough time watching them on our TV at home.
Well, there's a lot of there were scenes that I luckily don't have to deal with that, but there's scenes in here where I'm there's unnecessary camera movement. When there's that scene where Ames and Tess are talking and he's recapping the movies for people who might have seen this for the first time. The camera's quickly panning around them it's Michael Bay, just for an action, to let's make it more exciting that they're just talking.
Gotta make it
let's give a little bit of
dynamic.
action. It's no, man, just stationary is fine. You can pause for a second every once in a while.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. Pause for a second every once in a while. A classic, 2-shot, reverse shot. It's a classic for a reason. How we used to shoot movies, and now we're doing all these crazy things, and we simply do not have to.
Stop moving.
Stop moving, movies.
In that scene, though, Ames, number one, calls them the Toretto clan and says that the agency first caught wind of them in Rio. So it means the first 4 movies worth of stuff, they weren't even on the radar.
Fascinating. Now, the agency, the CIA? Or
just
the
agency. It's a different thing. Yeah.
Okay. But they are feds. They're not.
Possibly. We've never confirmed if they're government related.
Last lap or two laps ago, we did Where's Jacob? Because we're Dom's had a brother this entire time that we never knew about. What could he be doing during these movies? And so what we started to do somewhat is what's Dante been doing? Right? Because we but it seems he's not even aware. There's no reason for them to be aware. Even nobody's just these first 4 movies, no one gives a shit. They're just stealing DVD players off everyone's radar. Down in Miami with a drug lord, off everyone's radar.
I think once you cross borders is when they probably picked up on them. It was the tunnels to Mexico and back.
Well, that's still 4 though. And he says it's not. They didn't get on the radar till 5.
I think once you rip a bank vault out of a building and drive through a major city, towing it along the way, inflicting billions of dollars worth of damages, maybe that's when you wind up on the radar. Although I do recognize that obviously Hobbs was on their tail already, but.
Well, you also they talk about how they sensed great promise. Look at what these people can steal. We can use them. We can manipulate them. We can put their skills to our advantage. I did look around though, with all those shadowy figures on the screen, voting yes or no about
I tried to figure some out too. I paused. I looked. I tried to
here's all the
guess.
cities. The cities that I could list.
Thank you.
Most of them are not ones that they've been to yet that we know of. Oslo, no. London, yes. Berlin, yes. Dallas. No, seems kind of whatever. Sure. No offense to Dallas, but just Auckland, no. Reykjavik, no, I don't think. Barcelona, no. Los Angeles, yes. And Los Angeles is the only one of all those that says no to Ames. So maybe the Los Angeles
There was only one
person,
because there's 2, because it shows it, but it looks like they're in a round. You know what I mean?
The only one
it's
that
repeated.
I could see the city for. So the only one that I compare. So I think others do say no, but I couldn't see what city that was. Maybe when the 4K comes out and I can more carefully pause. But if those are people we know, maybe the someone in Los Angeles is a friend.
Might be Brian.
Is he in Los Angeles?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where I would assume so. But
I
also,
thought they were off the grid somewhere though.
It's unclear. I thought they were off the grid too, but if they're no, we've been in, Monica Beach or, Santa Monica. It's oh, okay.
Or maybe they're just like out in the valley somewhere, or in like in that weird like gated community in Calabasas where the Kardashians live,
Oh, maybe.
and there's no cell phone service.
Carol, what did you think of Dante? Jason Momoa as Dante?
Oh, Swole Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Swole Joker. Okay.
He just was doing Swole Joker the whole time. I don't know. He was fine. It was just kind of like, you know, some interesting choices. Honestly, I had a hard time focusing, and I was just thinking about that horrible apology video that he posted
What?
about
What?
taking photos in the Vatican that he
Yeah,
had
you
to like
remember this.
apologize for. It was the single dumbest celebrity apology that's ever happened.
Wait, was this while they were shooting this?
Yeah.
You know, we talked about this on the show like a
I don't
year
remember
ago.
though. Go ahead.
Yeah, because you can't take pictures in the Vatican, and like another celebrity just did it like a month ago.
It was
and,
Brie
like,
Larson, I think, was posting pictures. Maybe Vin or Brie. Somebody else I just saw some like on.
It wasn't someone in the franchise because I would have
Okay.
mentioned here it was someone else, but yeah, like they're like you can't, but they don't take the pictures down. They're still up. You know what I mean? Like it's just like whatever. But
Yeah, you're not allowed to take pictures in the Vatican. Sure, I have a fuck ton of pictures from the Vatican. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
Who
you and
cares?
everybody else, but I
Yeah.
don't know. He had like posted them on Instagram and gotten a lot of flack for it.
Mhm.
And then he like did this video where he's like in the hotel gym working out shirtless. Like the Red Hot Chili Peppers are playing in the back.
and he's
Seems
like,
right.
"Hey, sorry about that. Really, really sorry."
Yeah, and he starts the video talking about like his bicep that he's like rehabilitating after an injury, and then like finally like puts down his weights, like turns off the music and gets serious, and is like, listen, if you felt like I disrespected your culture, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to disrespect anyone's culture. Meanwhile, he's posting this to an Instagram account called Pride of Gypsies, and he is not Romani, so that's an
Very
ethnic
true.
slur, and he's, you know, disrespecting a culture there. So I just found it funny, and I was thinking about that because I was like, oh, this was when he was taking pictures in the Vatican, getting in
Mhm.
trouble for it, making bad
Mhm.
apology videos.
Did you hear? So there's going to be 2 more movies. There's going to be the sequel, the direct sequel to this, but there's also going to be in between. There's going to be a new Hobbs movie,
Oh, right.
standalone
Okay.
spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think things go from here? Do you think anyone at the end here is actually dead? Do you think Dom and Brian are going to
No,
die
of
in a
course
dam?
not.
Do you think the 4 people in that plane are all going to die? What do you think is going to go on immediately and long term to close out this franchise?
I think unless we see a body, no one's dead.
Fair,
And that has proven true time and time again.
100%.
It did feel like they were kind of like playing the hits in this one, where it was like there were like several things that happened that seemed to be like a reprise of bits that happened in different movies. Like obviously we got the bank vault / going through a city. You know, somebody was dead and it turned out they weren't actually dead. Woo. Or, you know, the guy you think is a good guy is actually a bad guy. Revisiting a lot. So I imagine whatever they didn't hit in this movie from the previous movies, they'll probably do in the next one.
Oh,
I did get the sense this time watching this movie that this is Vin Diesel's way to say goodbye to the franchise, because it feels like he's like staring at screenshots from movies, just like, these are some good times, and just like it feels like he's saying goodbye.
Remember when we did this? Remember when we did that?
that shot of him in front of the Coliseum is purely like, yo, you know, it'd look really cool. Get me from like waist height up and the Coliseum behind it, and just like, that would be really cool. I would like that. And they just like, yeah, we should put that in the movie. And it's like, no, there's no reason that should be in the movie at all. But like, it's just like a 3-second shot of just Vin with the Coliseum behind him.
And you know what? He's not wrong. It looks
pretty cool.
really cool. There is like the scene where he's talking to Isabel about Elena. He is crying. Like he loved Elena in a way that, like, obviously Letty is the love of his life, but he cared for Elena in a way that, you know, I don't know that we ever really fully, the movies really fully like explained that he loved Elena, but he seems like he really loved Elena. Which is
Sure.
nice.
But they also, like, she was never fully a person to us.
No, correct.
So it's hard to connect with that relationship that he had with her because it was so undimensional.
One-dimensional, not explain anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, what'd you notice this time around?
we were trying to figure out like who made the bomb, but it's clearly like a bomb from the agency because little nobody knows about the bomb, and they say like they like stole it from the agency, blah blah blah. Kind of unexplained, but that makes a little bit more sense. I was also like trying to, I had like a monocle on watching Little Nobody, trying to figure out if he is a good guy or a bad guy in this.
And
like when he first shows up, I'm like, this might be a bad guy too, because he's part of the agency. Ames is bad, right? Stuff like that. But then he's like, he's the one that tells them they don't have a mission in Rome. And like that's how they figured out. He's like, oh, come on, we're going to Rome. He helps them with the mission. But in the same time, then later on, like I forgot how much Ames helps Dom to like get him to Dante and save his son. And Ames is in it on it the whole time. So now I'm even more confused.
Who is that?
Scott Eastwood and Jack Reacher.
So yeah, Ames is the big muscly guy, the new guy. And Scott Eastwood is the guy who's been in a couple movies who kind of sucks. He's the agent. He's the one who like is in Rome. He goes to Dom's house. He's like, we don't have a mission in Rome.
And then they're like, oh yeah, you need to help now. And he's like, I see the bomb. It's this kind of bomb. It's the circle one.
I think I thought him and the other new cop guy were the same person.
They look vastly different, but that would be cool.
Sure. I mean, they don't look similar. I mean, they're both
but they're the same role.
Muscly white guys. Yeah, in law enforcement. They did not read to me as two separate people, which is probably my fault, but
no, it's okay.
What did you guys think of Dante calling Dom at least twice Dommy?
I like Dommy, and also Helen Mirren calls him, what does she call Ducky at one point?
Ducky and Dommy are pretty good nicknames.
I like both. I think we should roll with those. When Ames is there and he's doing like the round circle thing, he's like something something something. I hate barbecues. And I was like, that's the shittiest writing I've ever heard in one of these films, because there's nobody on the planet that doesn't like barbecues.
Maybe he's a vegan and he just has had like a lot of really uncomfortable barbecue experiences because everyone's always trying to get him to eat meat or something.
Yeah, he has like a bunch of bro-tastic friends. He's really big, and they're like, you're such a big unmasculating word that they want to use for not eating meat.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I mean, like, come on, like just to come out and be like, and I hate barbecues. You're like, what? Like,
I do like, even though he doesn't have her DNA, that she is just stepmom, Little B's got a whole lot of Letty acrobatics in him. Like when he's monkeying around, like with the cannon car, like he looks like Letty at the beginning of 4, right? He looks like he's jumping around in an oil rig. Like, even though, you know, nature versus nurture, that is definitely Letty's nurture rubbing off on him. Like, hey, climb around, jump around, moving cars, who cares? You're going to be fine. Automance.
Oh, you know what I noticed this time that I really, really, really liked? Brie Larson, like you were saying, she goes into the bar and she's wearing that leather jacket. And on the back of the leather jacket,
Good
it
vibes
says,
only.
Good vibes only. And then the next scene, it cuts into the song of Good Vibrations, too.
Ooh.
I didn't even pick up on that. I didn't like the Beach Boys version.
No, it was the Marky Mark version, because they're singing it. It's like Lil B and
Good Vibrations.
There is also, Joe, close to our hearts, not in this movie, but there is the opening of Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, where they're jumping around the trampoline in slow motion. There's like a song called Good Vibes Only. So like maybe she's shouting out Zack Attack. How deep down the rabbit hole? So Cara Joe has this theory that like, it's fun to believe, but you know, it would be insane if true that like the writers listen to this show and like sprinkle, like
steal our
ideas
good
or
ideas.
whatever. But how far down the rabbit hole would you have to go to be like, you know what, we're gonna layer in here? A Zack Attack reference.
That would be awesome.
So many hours of podcasts that they've listened to.
I say they put like an intern on it, and then he just like takes notes and writes, pitches them the best ones at the end. Like, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the week.
Yeah, he's got some massive Google Doc somewhere.
Yeah, it would also be really funny if the Zack Attack reference was not a Montez reference or a We Are Your Friends reference or a Blue is Blue Eyes reference. Like those are the things that stand out, right? Like
yes, yeah.
A Mike and Dave where we're like, fun movie. Aubrey Plaza's attractive. Anna Kendrick's attractive. There's nothing else to say about this movie, right? Like it's just like that. Like to reference Zack Attack that way would be like, whoa, that's some Galaxy Brain shit.
Oh, Cara, did you notice that they actually did reference our podcast in the movie?
No.
They use our logo as a scene at the very beginning of the movie to nod to us that they were listening to the podcast.
Really?
Because Little B's driving the car doing an infinity symbol with the tires of the car, and it is our logo.
Yeah.
Wow. Big if true.
Truly, Joe was like, "Oh my God, that's our logo on screen." I'm like, "You're not wrong. Like, you're not right, but you're not wrong." What I love, I feel like this is something I noticed the first time around that I did not mention, but what I feel is emblematic of like the size and the star powers, and also maybe the egos. Let's try to be positive. Is that I've never before seen a movie, I don't think, at least that I've noticed, that has 3 with credits and 3 and credits in the closing, where it's like with Brie Larson, with Jason Momoa, with Helen Mirren, and Jason Statham, and it's just like all these people who like have specifically written into their contracts, I can't be included in the regular list. I need to be at the end.
A special, yeah.
There's 6 of them, which is
there like a tier of like a with is like the higher, like you're in the movie more if it's with?
I don't think so. I think it's just
personal choice. Oh, good vibes only.
I think generally the last name is the biggest one, and that's the and credit. So there's usually like a with someone and someone. It's like, oh shit, that person's in the movie. And like doesn't even mean that they're necessarily in it a lot. It just means that like they're in it enough to be like mentioned up top. But to have 6 of them in this movie is truly insane. I'm gonna see if I can get all 6 of them. Hold on.
Pretty unwieldy. Speaking of contracts, I have a contract question for when we're done with this topic.
With Helen Mirren, with Brie Larson, with Rita Moreno, and Jason Statham, and Jason Momoa, and Charlize Theron.
That's wild.
I mean, those are all like enormous actors, right? Those are all like people that like warrant it, but it's still funny to have 6 of them.
Do we know like any of the details of like their deal with Corona? Like, is it, yeah, you guys can use Corona in the movie. Here's a shit ton of Corona. We'll pay you to use Corona. Are they still working on nailing down a specific Belgian beer that they're going to reference?
It was Stella in this one.
Well, yeah, but like, you know, they just reference Belgians, but we know that Corona is Corona. I'm just curious what like the back end on that product placement is.
I don't know the numbers, but I did hear like rumors that it wasn't a thing to start out with.
Correct.
And that's why it kind of like like if you watch like the first one has a ton of Coronas and then it comes back later on. Because I think Corona realized that this was like a branding opportunity.
Are they investing in the project or are they just providing free Corona? I'm just so curious.
Well, so one thing that I noticed, I don't know if you picked up on this time, but in the opening barbecue, everybody has a Corona, but they're not facing the camera. Like they're not really product placement. So Joe is right. When the franchise started, they used Corona because that's what racers in the scene drank. And so they just kind of stuck around, became a hallmark, became a staple, whatever. As far as I know, I don't think they've ever paid to be included. It's just like a thing that like
is free advertisement.
Free advertising. Like the Fast and Furious doesn't get anything from it. It's just like this is fun or whatever. You know what I mean? But like,
can you imagine if we would have got like the Fast and Furious 12-pack of bottles last time it came out? Like, you know, they do like the NFL.
That doesn't exist. Like, how does that not exist? They're just leaving money on the table, especially they have so much damage to repair, I think, just simply by the coincidence of being called Corona after the novel coronavirus pandemic.
I think everybody's over Corona and that association now, Cara, because they've moved on to something else.
Well, certainly they've decided to pretend none of that even happened. But, you know, I think there's still some like brand rehab that they could be doing.
I just want like a little sixer that has like Dom's charger on it, right? Like, wouldn't that be so sick?
Or like each bottle is a different face. Like,
yeah, they could have had 20 of them and only sold sixers, and you'd have to like go through the store and mix and match your own fucking sixer.
It is really funny that it seems like Corona never throws Fast and Furious a bone, right? Like in every movie, they're like, "Hey, buy this beer," and Corona's never like, "Hey, go see these movies." It's just like, no.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Sure, they don't need to, but you know, brand synergy.
Would have killed it. I'm with you, Kara. I'm 100%. Like I said, dude, I want it. Give it to me. Like, they do the NFL cans for, like, your team in the certain area and stuff like that. Like, why wouldn't they just slap some fucking Fast and the Furious logos on the front of a couple bottles? People would go out and buy them to, like, watch it on VOD, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, you have the fan base. I don't get it. You could make international editions, like... The Italian ones, like the Italian Coronas, would have been like a different bottle, and everybody would have been trying to collect them worldwide. It would have been crazy. Okay, as I was watching it this time, we talked about it a little bit before. Maybe he's really not dead, but Jacob dying, I don't think is necessary to this movie at all. I think we would have had the exact same thing. It would have probably, even for me right now, played better if Jacob didn't die. Because, like, he could have easily just, like, saved baby Brian and them and just, like, continued on the mission with them.
Yeah, I think it's maybe like some sort of like he feel that he has to do penance for whatever, for being absent and being a bad guy and like whatever. He has to like prove his loyalty to the family by sacrificing himself, and also by further traumatizing this child as he watches his favorite uncle burn to death in a fiery explosion. I think it's just it's for the drama of it all. Like, no, he absolutely does not have to die. Like,
but us as fans, like, it's almost unfulfilling that he like the whole time leading up to this movie, I'm like, we got to kill off some characters. We have too many people. Blah 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 blah. And then I'm watching it this time, and I'm like,
you're like, no, you killed the wrong guy.
No, not even you killed the wrong guy. I'm like, you probably didn't need to kill anyone. Like, we're like, we've conceded to the fact that, like, everybody's coming back to life. Nobody's gonna die. Nobody even is, like, really dead. And, like, they put them in, like, the scary situation at the end. Cool, but, like, I don't think anybody's gonna die. But, like, here, like, do you need to kill Jacob? Probably not. He was, like, one of the best parts of the movie for me. And now I'm like... And it just, like, it's in the middle of the action sequence, and you're like, okay, cool, blah, 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 we're getting to the end. And then they're like, oh, we killed Jacob, and then they just drive away. And I'm like, you don't even get, like, a oh, shit, like, Jacob. And then they do, like, come on, a fake funeral. We need the overlook. We need the cemetery. We need all that to, like, actually grieve it out. And we don't even get that. It just keeps pushing.
There is a line in this movie that I don't think I caught the gravity of the first time, but, like, when he's showing Little B his cave, his former mines, and he's just like, you just hollow it out, you do all this different stuff or whatever, and he says,
yep,
you just have to have a lot of time in your hands. It's just like, it's like the weight of, like, he's had no family for decades, like that Dom chased him away, right? And it's just like, there's something in that moment where it's just like, he's a kind of broken man. Like, it sucks.
There's a lot, I think, in this movie. I mean, they're all technically about family or whatever, but I felt like the presence of feelings about family, not articulate at all about that in this movie, like more so than others. Like Letty's like reluctant motherhood, I think, really kind of popped for me. Like when Little B calls her mom, she has this look on her face that's like, I'm so uncomfortable when you call me that. And then like they have the conversation about like her getting pregnant and her being like, the time will come when it's right or whatever. And then the conversation that Dom and Han have in the garage about, and he's like, that's fatherhood or whatever. And Han has this like really, I'm not sure like what the look on his face was, but it definitely wasn't like, yeah. It looked more like he was having a complicated feeling in that moment. And like, I feel like there were like heavier, especially like parenthood themes in this movie than there have been previously for obvious reasons. But
my running theory for how this ends is that Dom sacrifices himself to save the family, but Letty is pregnant with his son, so the name will live on.
Really, men really do be doing literally anything to get out of being a like consistent present father in their child's lives.
Literally dying to not pay child support.
I hate it. Thanks.
The only thing he loves more than family is more family. And there's a certain kind of sad irony to, like, because he literally puts his head on Letty's back, like you were just mentioned, just like, is it in there yet? She's like, no, not yet. What are you doing? No.
Also, that's not how this works.
Again, and on his bedside table is wild. to think that this is Dom
Oh, I
Toretto's
didn't even look
bedside
at
table.
Oh, I was looking, Joe, also because I was looking for candles. There's no candles there's candles in the room. There are no candles on the bedside table, please.
Cara, he has like a mounted magnetic phone charger holder.
Mhm.
And I was like, this feels the least Dom Toretto thing that could ever exist.
Yeah, does he even have a cell phone?
That's
Have
what I'm
we ever seen
saying.
him use a cell phone?
Like, only like comms to them, I guess. But like,
Yeah,
I can't imagine Dom's like a cell phone charger on the side of the bed guy, right?
Yeah.
Like his cell phone's in the living room.
yeah.
He charges it in the car only.
It's like out of battery most of the time anyway.
Exactly.
He has on his end table a cup of water and a pitcher of water, both like kind
Wild.
of ornate and glass.
Yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't feel
Yeah,
real.
some people do that.
No, but I mean, it's like orange glass, like brown.
It's like a bubbled, like a nice sort of fancy thing. I don't know. It's just
I really aspire to be the kind of person that could have a glass anywhere near their night table without
I have
knocking it
cats.
over.
I can't. I have cats. The cats are gonna get to it.
Yeah, I don't have cats, but I do
Thrash.
flail in my sleep
Yeah.
sometimes, or half asleep, reaching for something. Same with the pitcher. It's just not, I usually have like a glass of water and also a water bottle, as I currently do, because you have to have multiple beverages near and on your person at all times, as required by law. But yeah, I would love to have, well, I guess I aspire to be a person who has like a nice minimalist aesthetic bedside table, and my bedside table at its best could not be further from that at any given moment. There's all sorts of shit on there.
Is this the most kid-friendly Fast and the Furious? Because I think that if I had like a younger like somebody that's probably like 10 or under, this is the one I would show them. Because Joey, we said it before, Dante gets the fuck but doesn't say it in English.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole child like main character in this one.
Yeah, it's a great audience proxy for a child. However, that little Weekend at Bernie's scene that Dante has with the two Cypher guys that
I think it would play silly to kids, not like
terrifying
like to adults.
Sure.
Die in this movie. Like there's a lot, like, I mean, it's PG-13, so it's still like, not.
But I'm saying, in the scope of Fast and the Furious, out of these 11 movies, which one would you show to a child first, and why would it not be this one?
I mean, the Weekend at Bernie scene really gives me pause. Like, even though it is played for laughs, it is more gruesome, I think, than anything, like by like an order of magnitude more gruesome than anything else we've seen in these movies.
Yeah,
and it's I mean,
I was thinking that in the Han drug scene and like all of this weird stuff, like that doesn't play, but the rest of it, I think you can make a strong argument for.
Yeah. I think, or even like Hobbs and Shaw is maybe one that I would show a kid.
Well, so one of our listeners and one of our patrons, Lane, he brought his daughter, who's about
also why I was thinking about this,
10 or 12, I think, to this movie, and it was the first one she saw, and she really liked it enough to go back in the early movies. They watched like the first 2 or 3 or 4. But he was like, I'm not going to show her Hobbs and Shaw because, not for the reason that people like seem to dismiss it, like it's not really related, but it's just like there's a lot of sex stuff in there, like a lot of like jokes about like, climbing this mountain,
Mike
or whatever.
Balls, my Oxmall,
yeah,
things.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. Kids today, they're so sophisticated. I was going to say a lot of that kind of stuff would like go over their head, and they would watch it later in life and be like, oh, so that's what that meant. But who knows?
I still remember when I was like 7 or 8 and I watched Street Fighter and like Jean-Claude Van Damme says that bastard bison. I was like walking around my house repeating it. My mom's like, don't say that. I'm like, what does it mean? She's like, don't worry about it. Just don't say that. I'm like, all right, that's fine.
Maybe like the first one.
That one seems kind of sexier than...
First one's really horny.
It's really horny. That's what I'm saying. This one, like, I also liked this, that Dom's like, okay, the kid's asleep, and then he just puts his head on Letty's bed. Like, that's a really good, like, this is what we do when you're asleep. We just, like, put our heads on bellies.
So we know
that's
that
what we do.
2 has the rat bucket scene, which is kind of scary. 3 is a lot of like horny high schoolers. It might be 4.
Horny high schoolers hanging out with adults who want to fuck them.
Yeah. It might be 4.
But that's like just brooding. It's just so dark.
Yeah, gritty reboot.
But there's not
What
like
about five?
Five, yeah.
5 is like, to your point from earlier, Cara, they're dragging a safe through the streets of Rio and like
Yeah.
They are
murdering-
killing everyone. They don't say that miraculously nobody died in this in this situation.
Yeah.
I think this is a good entry point. This will be my entry point for unbirthed nieces and nephews. I will give them 10 first.
I do think it's funny that we were talking. I remember there's something we said something before about like, but Dante, when he has Little B in his car, he says, "You party, I party," and then what he does, hits the nos. It's just like that's partying.
That made me laugh pretty hard. Yeah.
Hey kid, you party, I party, hit the nos.
Yeah, I did too. I really like that part.
There's
I
so
forgot
much of
that it
his
existed.
like that I really like this time. Like his overly like after he kills Diogo in that race, he goes, "Oh no, Diogo!" Like he's like so broken up about. Like it's just like very funny. He also like he leans out of his own window at the start of that race. I'm like, I don't think we've ever seen this like where the driver is out the window. Like we've seen people jump through windows from car to car and whatever.
Or
but, like,
girls lean in the window.
But he's like doing like the dog driving down the highway, like tongue out, like having the time of his life. Exactly. But as he's driving the car, which I think is pretty funny.
Yeah. Bizarre. I liked his whole like purple look. The like purple satin
like it
shirt
too.
on and the purple
Matching the car, fingernails.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of nail painting in this. Now that
There
you
is.
think about that. A lot more than we ever expected in a Fast and the Furious. If you had to give me like over and under nail painting references in a Fast and the Furious movie, I would have taken the under for sure.
Yeah.
I would have lost that one.
I did, I appreciated his like gender fluid-ish adjacent see in this movie. Because we're so used to seeing, especially a guy who looks like him be like, big tough man. So I appreciated the nails and the sunglasses and the
Pastels.
Yeah, he does look really great.
He looks. It's the skin tone, man. It looks.
Yeah,
really
I
good.
cannot pull that off. I can tell you that much right now. But yeah,
he's so tan. It's just like, and well, jacked and beautiful, but at the same
Yeah, that
time,
helps.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
They reference in this movie, because we obviously know who his dad is, but they reference that his mom is from the South Pacific Islands, which is just vague enough to be like, we don't need to nail that down. Like, we'll never go back to her. But like, is Samoa considered South Pacific Islands? Could he be related to Hobbs in some way? Like, I know that, like, Hobbs comes back in this, like, and it's not like my brother or whatever, but like...
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought that he was in Hobbs and Shaw when they went to Samoa. I was like, wait, so this is a different guy. Like, wasn't he one of the brothers?
No, but they are somehow related. We figured this out at some point, right, Joey? Didn't we figure out that he's like...
No,
what was my accidental...
No. You found out that in Road to Paloma, which Momoa wrote and directed, The Rock's cousin is in that, and he plays
Who's also
The
his
Rock's
body
stunt
double.
But they're not related to Momoa.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the characters being related, because I can see that happening, where it turns out, like, on his mother's side, he's related to Hobbs or whatever.
Oh, no. But, Cara, something you might not know, that they came out later, that there was, like, a scene that was cut that they explain that Ames and Momoa are half-brothers.
Right. And that was why they were at the bank? I thought it seemed like a police station.
It was a police station,
yeah.
But he just had control of it. He was a bad guy that had control of the police station.
Okay, and that was where they heisted the vault from, not a bank.
Yeah, because they said he would put it in the police station because it's safer than a bank to him because he owns all the police.
Because he had it like, they had the money in different safe houses throughout Rio. The family goes and steals one and they burn it in front of people. And so to protect the rest of his money, he brings all the money into the big safe that they have control over, that they, in the heart of the police station.
Spoiler, they knew that was going to happen so that he would collect it all for them so they could steal it all at once.
It's a very Ocean's 11 kind of thing to do.
Anyways, I really like the idea that Momoa and Ames are brothers. And I think that now that I know that, it's just headcanon for me. Like, whether or not they continue that or address it later. Like, it would make sense more to me when I was thinking about it and watching it this time, that Reyes, the dad, is like, our family's going to finally do something great. I'm going to put your half-brother into the agency. And, like, we have all the cops. We have you here. We have me running the drugs. And if we get somebody on the inside of, like, the feds, quotation marks, then this could be, like, a huge umbrella of terror. So I don't know why they cut that. You leave fucking Pete Davidson in this movie, but you cut this part out?
You know, I'm curious to see, like we've been saying, when the Blu-ray comes out and when there's inevitably the director's cut on the Blu-ray with hopefully like 10 or so more minutes of stuff, that like character moments and maybe story moments and whoever, like we'll see, you know, what's in there. Maybe there's deleted scenes. Maybe we'll see some other stuff on the chopping floor. I don't know, but
Joey, you know the only thing we're going to get is like 15 more minutes of the bomb rolling through Italy.
they don't usually add action. They usually add, like, they cut character stuff because, like, people don't want character. We want character stuff, but like people don't want character stuff. So I think generally these extended versions are like what we want usually.
Yeah, and also, I am curious, like how much of that bomb rolling through the city stuff is very much like planned out in pre-production, so that they don't have to render so much more footage that's going to wind up being cut out.
Yeah.
Right. Or it's just simply not, render all of this footage that winds up not being included in the film. Whereas
that's very fair.
Yep. Yeah. Like they might even just have like wireframes rolling through and so there is like extra footage of that, but the only stuff that they actually like fully render is what makes it into the final cut.
That would make total sense.
Because there's a lot of like the bridge and at the end with the dam and like Alan Richardson Ames with the rocket launcher, like there's a lot of stuff that like is kind of shoddy green screen in a way, or blue screen or whatever they're using, like in a way that like isn't usually as noticeable. I think they just kind of like, because this movie, Cara, I don't know if you had heard, budget somewhere between $340 and $400 million. So I think at a certain point, Universal is like, no more money, just no more money.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole thing with Justin Lin at the beginning of shooting, which must have been, I mean, I cannot wait for the oral history of that to come out at some point. And like, what happened there and how much did that cost? Because like, it's a shockingly coherent movie.
That's the takeaway.
Right? All things like, considered.
What it could have been for it to be like, to make any sense at all, kind of a miracle.
Yeah, proud of them for that. But I'm so curious what happened there and how much money that cost.
There was a number, and I don't remember it. I'm never going to be able to find it. It was something like, it was like $10 million a day they were burning, just like in terms of like
just them sitting there.
Pay.
Yeah.
With all the COVID protocols and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I think they had brought him in, they resumed like within about a week and a half. But I'm sure that was just like how do we do this? Who can we kind of like, who do we trust, but we can also kind of control?
Right. Because I have to imagine that he just, whatever pre-production work that Justin Lin had done as far as like planning and stuff, which is a lot of work that a director has to do beforehand. Like, I imagine that he just like took his notes and ran with it, because he had no time to like develop his own vision of like, what the movie was supposed to be.
There's a story, I don't think there's any reason to doubt it, but like Louis Leterrier said that like on the flight over to wherever they were shooting in Europe, he basically rewrote almost the entire movie.
Wow. Okay.
He also has talked about since then recently about how he broke it out like a TV series instead of a movie, because there's so many different stories and so many different characters, and you have to like keep making sense. But it does feel like he had all these pieces to this puzzle that like Justin Lin was sort of cobbling together. Like maybe his heart wasn't it, who knows, right? But like it seemed like he's like, how do we salvage this, and then what do we do from here?
Yeah, interesting. But even still, like they did wind up turning it around in like incredible time span. Like from when did that happen? Like when were we hearing about this?
I think that was like sometime last year. Like it was at the beginning of shooting, so probably maybe 14 or 16 months ago. Like I think early 22 seems right.
Which is, I mean, that seems very recent, but like that is wild that they turned around this whole thing fully rendered out, like all of that special effects work.
Yep.
And it didn't look like garbage either. It actually looked pretty good, all things considered.
I think so. I think this one looks pretty good. I think they always look pretty good. I don't really have problems with the CG here at all.
Yeah, it's just that, that sort of thing takes a lot of computing power and a lot of time. so like the longer that you have for any render, the better it's going to be. So it really is amazing that that $500 million or whatever the amount of money that they spent on this kind of shows that they were able to like get that done on that time span.
They said in the first movie, it's an amazing machine. Like the cogs of like going through and like producing a thing
on this scale.
We've talked a lot recently as like, because this movie was only in theaters really for 3 weeks. It was on premium video on demand 3 weeks later. Like you can maybe find it, but like it's not in my theater at all anymore. Not even like one showtime at like 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever. It's gone. And like it only, quote unquote, only made like $138 million in the US and like made $650 worldwide. And with a budget of $400 million, it means like they still made $250 million. But like compared to what I'm sure Universal was hoping for,
yeah,
they were movies have made,
hoping for an easy billion.
Pretty much, yeah, I would assume so.
I mean, it's a miracle that any movie gets made, like from the smallest like indie film to the largest studio action, whatever. But this is getting out of control. Like it's just the amount of money that they're spending on this is unsustainable and will, I'm sure, eventually destroy everything. But in the meantime, it's fun to watch.
It is fun to watch. We were just, if this wasn't a movie franchise that was 11 deep with all the goodwill and like, the bridges you would burn to cancel, like this flopped somewhat, right? And so would they make 1 or 2 more? Who knows? But I'm glad that they are.
Well, they are right now. Let's see if they ever come out.
Do you think there's a possibility that they wouldn't come out, Cara? You think that there's a possibility they actually could shut this down and be like, that was the end on a cliffhanger?
Mm-hmm.
Read about it in a comic book or something.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of like churn happening in the industry right now, not just, like writer strike, SAG strike notwithstanding, everything that's happening with like streaming and like for HBO to like, I mean, whatever the fuck HBO has been doing, and to like fully just, take content and just say like,
wipe it. Yep.
Wipe it as if it never happened, or it just, I think that there are a lot of like bizarre financial incentives that exist that we don't understand.
I don't understand how write-downs work. That's the one thing I've learned in all of this. Like, I don't understand how you save money by not putting it out there, but like,
you just write it off.
You write it off, and then you get to pay less taxes. And isn't that what the corporations really want? Forget about producing any sort of content. Let's not pay taxes.
Less taxes, more profits.
I mean, there's always been a lot of bizarre businessy stuff on the back end that happens, but I think we're just in a really, really weird time for media right now. And because this did, quote unquote, flop, despite still making $200 million. And because so many of these like big, like more recent big budget movies that at one point would have been guaranteed to net $1 billion or whatever, I think that trend will influence some decision making, and it may or may not, work out in the favor of the family. So TBD.
As we're in an era where Disney just delayed Avatar 4 and 5 by 3 years each, and Avatar 3 by a year.
Was that Zoe Saldana quote real, by the way?
She's going to be 51 or whatever when it comes out.
But did she say that? Was she like, bro, I'm going to be 51. I was like 20 when the first one came out. Because there was like, I saw this quote and I couldn't figure out if she actually said it or not.
I think so, because I mean, it got delayed to 2031. Sense. It's real.
Yeah, and those are going to get canceled probably. Yeah. Oh, there absolutely is. Yeah. You have like even the franchise Viagra isn't working anymore. So
yeah, we talk about that a lot. Hopefully it'll spice this franchise back up, but who knows?
I mean, I think there's a possibility that Hobbs comes out, flops, and then they can it.
That would be the worst. That would be the worst option for me.
Of course, it would be the worst option for literally everyone involved, except for like those studio heads that get big bonus checks. I don't want to see that happen. I hope I'm not speaking this into the universe into existence, but I think there's a solid possibility that could happen, which would be a huge
I don't think
bummer.
that they would put out one, because if that comes out next summer and they would be well into, I think, production of 11. I don't think that they would shut down 11. I think they'd be like, any plans for other spin-offs or future movies or reboots
Yes,
or whatever they could mix. But I think by the time that comes out, if it comes out late next summer and we're like 8 or 9 months away from the release of 11 or 10 Part 2 or whatever they're calling it, like, I think it would also, like, it would turn a lot of people off to, it'd be bad.
Sour.
I don't think it's impossible, but I think it would be unlikely. But
because I think more likely it would be cut here, and they would say, like, we're not doing Hobbs, we're not doing Part 2,
right,
as opposed to, like, doing Hobbs, having that flop too. That would be, like, the worst. They have, like, this, the bridge movie, and then they're like, Oh, but also, Cara, like, if it's looking bad or grim, they could just, like, wrap the end of this one up at the end of Hobbs. And just be like, okay, that's...
Yeah, I think that's, unfortunately, seems to me the most viable scenario here. Then, more so, at least, than making both Hobbs and Final Fast and Furious. And not only making them, but, like, finishing post-production, doing the marketing, releasing it in theaters, all of the whatever, like that, because it's like, it's one thing to wrap a movie production, it's another thing to, like, go that last inch of the mile or whatever, and it's several $100 million more for that, like, single inch of that mile in post-production, in marketing.
Whether you market by an inch or a mile, marketing's
marketing.
Yep.
It would be very sad if it's like Fast 10 Part 2 unceremoniously dumped onto Peacock.
If Peacock still exists, which also is like...
Well, so as of right now, on June 15th, which is 8 days before this episode comes out, Super Mario Brothers has made $1.3 billion worldwide, number one.
That's an insane number.
Guardians 3 has made $800 million worldwide. Fast 10 in third place with $661 million. Ant-Man 476, John Wick 427, Little Mermaid 425. So Mermaid will probably pass it. Spider-Verse at 412 will probably pass it.
Why do you think Mermaid will pass it?
Because Mermaid's only been out for like a week and a half, and it's only $200 million behind.
And it's a kids movie.
Also true.
And even though they're gonna, like, the reviews for that are not great, I think it's just like, when they're gonna get Sarah Polley to waste 2 years of her life doing a live action Bambi, like, come on, let Sarah Polley make another, like, an actual movie.
Wait. Is that actually happening?
Yeah, I don't think they finalized it, but, like, that's like she's like,
and The Rock's doing Moana.
But Sarah Polley is like an Academy Award winning filmmaker.
Aside from the person who kills Bambi's mother at the beginning of the film, are there any humans in that movie?
Well, there's no humans
question.
in Lion King. There was a live action Lion King.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. I'll have to see that, because I guess. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
they're not for us, Cara. They're not for us.
No, I know. It's just, the term live action is.
Yeah, no, it just means,
getting
like,
a little slippery.
Real backgrounds and stuff with, like, CGI lions and things.
But they're not real backgrounds, are they?
Cara, I have no idea. I saw the movie in theaters. I wish I didn't.
It's just transposing human faces onto animals.
It's not even their faces. It's not even the faces. It's just animating CGI animals that look realistic.
Now, if Sarah Polley was going to do a Cats 2...
Now that I'd watch.
Yeah, I don't know if, like, Donald Glover's face is on Simba, but it looks more like Donald Glover than not.
Than a tiger.
Which I understand, like, because even hand-drawn animators can do that and have done that historically often. It's just like, what are live? These are strange times we're living in, where we're calling
very strange.
A movie that's 98% computer-generated imagery a live-action film. That's interesting.
You're not wrong.
That is an interesting concept, and not one that I would have expected them to reboot as far as the Disney catalog goes.
Anyway, Cara, thank you so much for joining us once
Thank
again.
you for having me.
on this
Thanks
very
for
fine
watching the
podcast.
movie. I appreciate you giving us the time to and watching it and talking to us.
Oh, anytime. I always have a blast.
Our next episode on Tuesday is Too Fast, Too Furious. And then we have no main feed bonus episode next week. You got to go to the Patreon at toofasttooforever.com if you want a bonus episode. But Cara, is there anything you want to plug? Anything that you want people to find you? Are you online at all anywhere? Can people find you if they want to
Have
find
you
you?
been riding a bike?
Oh, no, not really.
Damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I ride my exercise bike sometimes. I'm actually in the process of selling my actual like outside bike. If there's anything I want to plug, I don't want to be found, but I will plug fostering and adopting senior animals.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
it.
nice cause. I like
They're
that.
the
That's a good
best.
cause.
We're currently fostering a allegedly 15-year-old pit mix named Laverne. She is the sweetest
That's a great
baby.
name for a 15-year-old.
Oh,
For a
she's
15-year-old pit mix, Laverne.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
She is so sweet, so gentle, just my speed. You know, a senior animal, they're the best because their personalities are already fully baked. They don't require a lot of attention, just like a little extra patience. And they're so sweet and so wonderful. So, you know, if vet bills are a concern for you, fostering is a great option because the rescue will cover it. So that's what we're doing.
That's awesome too.
Because
Good tip.
Because if there's one thing that old animals are, other than in need of love, they are
Sick.
expensive.
they are
Sick.
in need of medical care a lot of the time. Although, you know, sometimes they're inexplicably healthy for a long time.
Very true.
I've cared for some senior animals like that too. So, yeah, go find yourself a reputable rescue and maybe take in some seniors because, you know, their adoption odds,
Or
not great.
zero.
Yep.
They're not there's a non-zero chance they can get adopted. But you know, it's a tough sell for a lot of people when they are the most rewarding and wonderful little guys.
Truly.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
smush Laverne's nose for me.
Oh, well, she might not like that, but I'll give her a little head rub. She likes little
Perfect.
head rubs.
I always like nose smushes. That's just my normal go-to. But I understand it's annoying. So
Well, thank you, Cara, and also thank you to our patrons, Cassie Wilson, Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, Justin Kleiman, and Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Wes Hampton, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke, Hayden, Renato DiDonato, Michael McGann, Lane Middleton, Lindsay Lewandowski, Nate Milton of the Kings of Sport, Jason Rainey, Tom Price, Mike Gallier, Josh Buckley of Whole Lotta Wolves,
yep.
Michael Moser, Christian Larson, and Jessica Collins, a.k.a. Montez. Thank you all for supporting us. And for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out the aforementioned Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com and our store at cageclub.me/shop. And come back on Tuesday for Too Fast, Too Furious. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And that was Cara Gael O'Regan. Get your pets spayed and neutered and also adopt
Okay,
a
Bob Barker.
foster an elderly pet.
And make sure you and your pets are your vaccinations are up to date.
Very true. We will tell you all about it
When we see you again.